you know, Kevin McCarthy is out. You know that, right? And they're giving me a lot of credit for that because I said you really need somebody very, very tough and very smart. You know, but Kevin is a nice guy, and I just hope now that they find somebody that's going to be, you know, have those qualities where we can negotiate, where we can use that debt ceiling that's coming up very rapidly and do something really, really significant. Because if we don't, we're going to be in very big trouble.
I finally wear a tie to match Trump, and he goes blue. Go figure. Anyway, that was GOP frontrunner Donald Trump at a rally in Las Vegas yesterday, taking credit, at least partially, for House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy dropping out of the race to replace House Speaker John Boehner. Washington, D.C. has been in turmoil since McCarthy announced he was dropping out, literally moments before a vote on Boehner's replacement was to take place. Shortly after McCarthy's announcement, Wisconsin representative, his name is Paul Ryan, released a statement saying he was not going to toss his hat into the ring. It's been reported since, however, that Speaker Boehner, who has decided to stay on in the meantime because, well, who else is going to do it, spoke to Ryan at least twice yesterday, and now things seem to have changed. CNN is reporting that Ryan has told several House members privately that he is now considering running for Speaker of the House. Do you think Paul Ryan would make a good Speaker of the House, even if he kind of really doesn't sort of want the job John Fund?
Well, first of all, I have unreliable sources that the sun is rising tomorrow, and Donald Trump will take credit for that.
In the East, I believe.
No, actually, he's going to try to do it the other way around, and then he'll take credit for it.
Okay, no. Very good.
Paul Ryan would be a healer. He'd have a honeymoon of a few months. The internal divisions wouldn't go away, but there's enough respect that he will treat all sides equally that I think it would get them through what has been a vicious civil war. The other alternative is an interim speaker, somebody who's already announced their retirement, like a Candace Miller, chair of the House Administration Committee. She'd be the first female speaker after Nancy Pelosi. There would also be a couple others, but if they go to somebody from one of the polarizing wings or the other, I think the Obama administration might as well celebrate, because they can simply point to Republican dysfunction and say, do you think turning the White House over to these people would be a good idea?
Why do you think Ryan wants the job? Is it because he's only 40-something years old, he's got some long-term prospects, and being Speaker of the House would be so bruising that it would hurt his long-term aspiration to be president?
That's part of it, but I know Paul personally. He has 3 young children at home, and you travel an awful lot if you're Speaker. I think he wants to be handed the job on terms that are better for him. One thing that I think would make a good idea is give him the option of returning to the chairmanship of the Ways and Means Committee after he's finished as Speaker, because that's the job he's always really wanted, and if you guarantee his return to the job he really wants, you might get him to take this one.
Interesting. Gail, are you pro Paul Ryan getting the job?
The scuttlebutt is that Daniel Webster would answer the things that John just shared, not being from one of the wings of the party. He's not a member of the Freedom Caucus, but he's someone that the Freedom Caucus endorsed this week before the election was called off, the nomination election. And Daniel Webster is all about process. He's about a return to the rules of order, to taking things on in the committees, pushing the budget bills, and that would be very helpful to both sides in this polarized Congress, because if you go back to the rules, then you're not going to govern by crisis to crisis to crisis, which always makes it very difficult to come out with what the American voters want.
Can I throw a wild card at you?
Yes.
And I've heard this more than once, or else I wouldn't throw it out just for the sake of conversation, but I heard Sean Hannity talking about it on his radio show today. It was reported in a couple places that Newt Gingrich would love to have the job.
That's a fun one. Right?
And, well, hey, wait a minute. Now, during the 90s, things were pretty functional.
No, he put his name into it. Newt Gingrich introduced himself.
You don't think they were?
I was there. No.
Okay. I think we all were, actually.
Newt, compared to, relatively, John, relatively, things operated pretty well in the 90s.
No, they were a disaster.
Balanced budget.
Newt was a great...
Was there a balanced budget?
Inside the
Welfare
House,
reform?
The constituents of the Republican conference, those are the people who elect the Speaker. Newt, yes, things did get done, but they got done at the last minute in a chaotic way. Newt is a wonderful ideas man. I'm a great admirer of Newt, but he cannot manage, and they need a manager. He did not manage, and that's the reason why he left the speakership after only 4 years.
And he also hasn't been in the House, so he doesn't have those relationships. It's not functioning the same way.
Almost everyone is gone.
Everyone's gone, exactly. You know, some of the other, and that's, I have a question for you, John Fund. Why do you think there's pushback against Daniel Webster? Because I hear so much from the base saying that he's a great, reasonable prospect, but not a real solution.
He was Speaker of the House in Florida. He has experience with that.
You know, I will be very blunt. You don't become Speaker unless most of your colleagues know you better than people know Daniel Webster. He's barely arrived there 4 years ago. He simply hasn't built up the associations. And he may be a great guy, but most people, it's a large group of people, they don't know him.
All right, let's take bets.
Bets?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
one.
So, all right, I'll be the guy who organizes this, so to speak. All right, so you have $100 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And you could bet on one person. You put the full 100 on them, or you could split up your bets. 60 here, 40 here, that sort of thing. So who's your money on right now? And
Mike
how much?
Conway.
$100?
$100. It's not a lot of money.
You're putting $100 on one
Yes.
guy that we haven't even spoken about here.
He's been written about today, and I've
know,
heard
on
it
this
from a few
panel, though.
sources. No, not yet here.
Okay.
But I've heard it from a few sources, Republican sources, that he could be an option. He's pushing his way in.
Okay.
Yep.
All the chips on the table.
Yes.
Mike Conway.
Because
Okay.
I think there are more pluses for him than the pluses for the other candidates. There are more minuses for the other potentials compared to him.
Okay. We are recording this, so we will play it back, Gail.
$100, come on.
I like that. Bold, deterministic. So I would say 102, but I would say Daniel Webster, because I think he's the man that will be able to best articulate to both sides of the party that he will treat them fairly.
Now, you've been backed into a corner, John, because now both women here are betting the full boat. They're not splitting up the bet. They're not divvying it up. So are you putting 100 also on X?
I'm convinced that Paul Ryan will get enough concessions that he'll be accepting the Speaker's job.
And he will gladly accept it, or does he still need some convincing?
I think it's happening as we speak.
Okay, very good.
Ooh.
And I will put $10 on 10 different candidates. Oh, we're out of time. I'm sorry. Do you think Paul Ryan would make a good Speaker of the House? If not, who do you think should replace Speaker Boehner? Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. It's Gowdy with a G, and let us know. Coming up next, Hillary Clinton has a problem with men.